Okay. Uh, Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, depending on wherever you are. My name is Armando Borda. I am a faculty at the Sun University, and it's my pleasure and my university pleasure to present AJE Group as the biggest multinational that the country has, and to Raul Samaniego, who is director of supply chain in the Asian region of AJE. For those who knows AJE, will be a fantastic story. For those who do not want or do not know about the company, it will be still a fascinating story. The company was born in Ayacucho in the highlands in Peru more than 30 years ago, and from that has had an accelerated growth not only in the country but worldwide. The company has been committed to the environment and the nature since the beginning of operations. Right now, it's committed to contributing to the UN Global Sustainable Development Goals and adapts its operating context and aims to contribute to the 2030 agenda. And Raul joined AJE Group in Asia to implement and lead the end-to-end supply chain in that region. The company is a multinational beverage firm with operations in more than 22 countries. Raul is an engineer, has an MBA with mentions in supply chain in finance, and has more than 25 years of experience. Without any further introduction, I will we will begin the presentation, and I will like to remind you that you need to send your questions during the presentations, so we have like 10 minutes Q&A questions towards the end. Uh, right now, we will present a video that shows you somehow the experience of AJE in Asia. Thank you.
การเติบโตอย่างสร้างสรรค์และมีจุดมุ่งหมายสร้างความสดชื่นให้ทุกวันของชีวิตสิ่งที่เราคิดสิ่งที่เราทำด้วยความตั้งใจส่งต่อความสดชื่นเพื่อผู้คนมานานกว่า30 ปีได้กินดีอยู่ดีได้ดูแลตัวเองให้สุขภาพดีมีพลังส่งต่อความสดชื่น10 บาท15 ปีไม่มีเปลี่ยนแบ่งปันไม่มีหมดให้ทุกขวดแทนรอยยิ้มและคำขอบคุณ
Hello everyone. Thanks Armando for the presentation. Thanks to the organizer for giving this opportunity to can share the experience in the case of AJE Group and how this organization with a fascinating story is facing and dealing with a supply chain, with a global supply chain. Okay, we can see in the next slide a little bit about my background. I would say that I have experience in different sectors, very different, like consumer goods, automotive, energy, textile, even banking. And I think it was very important in my current duties because give the knowledge or the different point of view to kind of extract the best practice and the best perspective of these industries and understand that all the industries are in some way interrelated. This gives a good vision for a global context, to have a negotiation, to can understand the economy cycles, and also for sure to can say some increase the networking in the industry and in the countries in this globalized world. I would like to comment a little bit about it in the next presentation, in the next slide, about the AJE group. Like Armando explained very clear, this is a Peruvian iconic company, and the story is really fascinating. And invite you to research a little bit more about how this company grew in the context of violence, in the context of poverty, in the 80s, more than 31 years, when nobody, the big distributors or the big brands, didn't want to reach these towns, this area. In this moment, the Añaños family, it's a local family from Ayacucho, saw this like an opportunity and start to produce in the yard a beverage with their own formula, and can distribute to the Ayacucho and to the nearby towns. And now, in relatively short time, 30 years in comparison with the big players in this industry, is the fifth Latin multinational beverage company, and also is one of the world's largest beverage company. Have operation in more than 20 countries, have more than 15,000 employees. And basically, the success of these companies about have a low-cost manufacturer, very focused in try to democratize the consumption of the beverage, principally focusing in emerging markets, right? In the emerging markets, and now also with a goal to democratize the healthy drinks, right? The trend in the world is changing for more healthy products. And AJE now, you can see also the logo is green. It's very committed with a well-being of the population of these emerging markets. We can see in this slide about the milestones and international expansion of AJE during since 1988, right? As you can see, it takes almost 10 years from can reach the capital, right? From Ayacucho to the capital, Lima city, almost 10 years, because grow like a capillarity in all the towns in the north, in the south, in the center, until arrive to Lima, where the competition obviously is bigger. And after that, the international growing, starting in Venezuela, Ecuador, Mexico, starting to open new factories, new plants, and breaking the market with a proposition of value brands with a very affordable price. And it's like that also AJE identified not only in Latin America, it's also in the world, starting in Asia, in Thailand in 2006, and after that in Indonesia, in India, and also in Africa. That's why we can say that this is international expansion with a disruptive distribution system, with a mix of micro entrepreneurs and all distribution models, make this expansion very, very, very fast and very challenging, right? I for example, remember when I entered to AJE Group to work in Indonesia, and I saw this expansion and the growing where the brand is very well known in the huge market like Indonesia. But now AJE need to face more challenge in order to maintain the market and also to continue expanding the operations over the world. This is the map. In the next slide, you can see the map where I have operations around the world. And we can see in the next slide also how this expansion are sustained, right? I would say that when I was, for example, in this case in Indonesia, growing very fast, and also the recognition of the brand, but we grow in a very messily way, right? That's why it's very important to understand, the company realized that it's very important to understand what are the pillars and what are the values of this organization. I also worked in the competitor before in the same sector, but it's totally different, the functionality and the DNA of this organization. It's fascinating, and the values are about the entrepreneur spirit, about the brotherhood, about the passion, audacity, and always dreaming big. I think it's very important to focus in the culture, because sometimes we overlook the importance of the culture in the growth of these kind of organizations. We don't need to look outside to can inspire and motivate working here and making the organization growing around the world. This is the next slide, we can see some of our brands, some of our categories, right? Now, as I said at the beginning, was more of the big contribution come from the carbonated drinks, but now we are producing more healthy products and also innovating with superfruit juices from the Amazon, from the Asia forest, and this is also a very good commitment with and sustainability with the communities in these countries, right? This is I think it's one of the most interesting projects that we are immersed, and we are. I am very sure that you can see in the news in the near future about these fascinating projects that AJE is leading. As I say, and the next you can see one of our advertising. This is about to be we don't make the rules, we break them. It's like that. It's fascinating how in each market, in each project, AJE break the market, right? AJE disruptive with a value of prices, as I said to you in the previous slides. But really, this is not about a race, it's about a marathon. You can penetrate to the market with a very good prices, with a very good distribution, but for sure the competitors don't stack, right? They also have a lot of muscle and they react. That's why one of the pillars and the backbone is the supply chain. In the next slide, I want to comment a little bit about how is the structure of this global supply chain. You can see our supply chain balance scorecard, right? With a financial, customer, internal, and learning and growth perspective. I'm very based in the low-cost operations, but it doesn't mean that low quality. We're very focused in the quality, right? But this low-cost DNA make us are in constantly searching for the opportunities and the details inside our operations in order to can give to the consumers an affordable price and develop also new categories and also can enter to new markets, right? It's a very important also, as I said, the learning and growth perspective. We have operations that have, we are in more than 22 countries, right? And for sure, one of the things that we learn is that the success that we have, for example, in Latin America market is very different with success that we can have in continents like Asia or Africa, right? That's why we always say, like, think big, but act local, right? Because we customize our products, our model of operations to the markets and we are operating. Is what we do, but also most important, how we do it, right? And how we do it, we also structure or implement a system, a management system, an old organization that we call AJE way, right? It's a way of operating. It's like a hybrid of the best practices of the industries with also our internal DNA and our internal success cases that we were implementing in our different operations. That's why for us, this is AJE way, is in constantly developing, building, and also adjusting, especially with this current situation. And in the interaction that you can see in the next slides, how manage, right? Because one of the values is about entrepreneur. It's like a thing, like a startup, right? Always we are challenging ourselves. Is that interaction between the operation in each country that is more like you can see in the structure, functional, by administration, but also with a close support and interaction of the global headquarters, that they have the structure based on processes, right? Planning, innovation and technology, risk management and QSHE, operation excellence, strategic sourcing, capability and assets. So these processes are developing and are supporting the growing of the operations around the world with the different capabilities and priorities. In the next slide, you can see how are the structure in terms of the global organization. That is one of the, I would say, have no more than 5 years when AJE integrated the supply chain. It's an end-to-end supply chain, right? Before was divided planning, manufacturing, or purchasing. Now this structure is end-to-end supply chain, end-to-end perspective. And this is how we can catch and we can seize opportunities to improve in the environment of a low cost, right? And according to our capabilities, internal capabilities, also external, because sometimes for the new business with new pilots, with new projects, we look also for external or outsourcing or OEM manufacturers in the terms of procurement to take advantage and seize the scale economy that we can attain in all of our operations consolidated. The operational excellence is crucial in our way of operating. How can we get the best productivity with the best practices, with a very optimal working capital, and with a supply chain planning in a very proactive, in a very, I would say, revolution the process of traditional S&OP. We will see in the next slides how is this process can guide us. It's like our GPS. And I would say that this is constantly challenging, constantly work with in a market that we are competing with very big players. Was AJE put in a very good situation, I would say, for this kind of crisis, right? Because AJE born in a very deep crisis in the country and especially in the town. So this global background that we have currently with a pandemic, with a logistic disruption, we call now also VUCA or BANI context, right? Ambiguity, duality, uncertainty, make this opportunity for tackle or for deal with this challenge and still continue growing. And that's why we call, as you can see in the next slide, how can we hacking this complexity? How can we hack this global supply chain for lead our organization? We use this word hacking because it's more for understand how can in a big complexity, not only internal, also about the global context, we can lead, we can deal, we can tackle, and we can succeed, right? The definition of hacking is a fundamental knowledge of systems, in this case, businesses. It's to modify something to do what you want, right? The hacker knows how things work. And with this parallel, with this analogy, we developed like 5 phases, right? Similarity with a hacker hacking the systems. And the phase 1 with reconnaissance, the phase 2 scanning, the phase 3 is gaining accessibility, phase 4 maintaining accessibility, and phase 5 is preparing and leading the next hacking, right? This is a constantly cycle. And in the first phase, in reconnaissance, is is to know about the context, the global context outside, right? Not only see internal. Normally, traditionally, we see first internal and go to outside. In this kind of phase, we need to recognize where we are and how is the context of the market, of the customers, of the suppliers, customers, and not only our direct suppliers or customers. We go with also with a second tier or even the third tier to can have more scope and can identify pain points and opportunities. I would say in the customer evolution also is a very challenging process that we need to internalize to adjust the context and recognition of of where we are. In the next slide, in the phase two, I would say in the scanning process. After this slide of customers evolution, then the phase two, the scanning is okay. It's like after we know where we are standing, it's about to develop our visibility. I would say the visibility is the key factor for a smart supply chain, right? Identify the end-to-end supply chain, identify the key people, right? Because without visibility, you can identify the opportunities, the pain points, and you are not specifically where your pain points are. You have no realistic way of fixing them if you don't have visibility. As we can see, next is about the gaining access. That as a crucial phase. It's a crucial phase because in this phase already we are tackled. Already we implementing the quick wins that we identify in the previous phases, and besides to focus in the cost management, right? It's about to focus in the how we realign, how we design our processes from customer backwards, and is now in the situation. Gone days are the all size fits all, right? Now we need to customize your supply chain. You need to customize your groups. There is a new patterns. There is a new groups, new type of consumers that we need to identify in order to adjust also our operations. That's what we call about the micro segmentation. It's a very important. And besides this is we build also some teams like we call the SWAT, right? SWAT is a special weapons and tactics teams between operations and sales, because with this we can adjust the tacticals in the field, in the market. This is one of the things that make special this company, because it's very agile, very flexible, and can adjust also the tactics in a very fast way if compared with a huge companies that for make a decision, for launch a product, takes a lot of time and sometimes are stuck during this period. Okay, one of the pillars of this process, as I mentioned before, is how we redefine our process of sales and operation planning, right? This is extremely important process in our supply chain because we call proactive sales and operation planning, and it's driven by questioning, right? It's driven by questioning all the time. Instead of focus in a consensus number, in these meetings, in this process, we are evaluating different scenarios. It's not about the plan behind the number, right? It's about the way that contingencies are solved. And people need to know the decisions, because the contingencies, the market are not fixed. And all the plans, all the forecasts must have the ability to adapt to emerging situations. I would say was one of the key factors because before the COVID, for example, each member of the team knew not only what to do, but also why they were supposed to do, right? It's always starting and questioning why we need to do that, and not only in the top management and not only in the leaders, It's also in all the team that make daily decisions. It's more easy to adjust the decisions and the proposals coming from the team if they already know how is the impact and why they are doing that. Okay, these are some of the questions that we like to explore in that meetings, right? How the decisions enhanced by proactive supply chain, about how can we drive value through demand, which plans optimize profitability and cash flow, what is the right amount of capital and promotions, or something that we can allow to all the team involved to see different scenarios and what happen if any variable change these premises or these tactics. It's more easy to adjust, and also it's more easy to communicate to all the teams, not only in the high level of management. This phase, I would say, is one of the most challenging, the maintaining the access, as I said to you. Maybe because our DNA or because our dreaming big is very inherited in our processes, but also it's more important, I would say, to maintaining that. And in this process, I would say that people is a very crucial function, a very crucial role, and how the organization also hack the learning, right? And taking advantage that the different contexts, the different situations in all the countries that we are operating, this leveraging makes this asset a very important for maintaining the access. It's very important that also to adjust and measure relevant KPIs. Sometimes I would say in the past, we have a lot of KPIs for everything, but we need to focus in the relevant KPIs, managing also the risk, right? Moreover, with this context, the changing dramatically, and understand not only the supply chain area, I would say all the organization, understand the concept of trade-off, right? Normally in supply chain, all the decisions, any decision that we have impact to another, right? In the next slide, for example, you can see how we need to balance this trade-off, these decisions, right? Sometimes we have made the decision of longer production runs, but this can affect the working capital. This can affect the availability of the product in the market, but maybe have savings in the manufacturing, or for the other side, we have low cost of products, of materials, of packaging, but maybe can compromise the sustainability, the continuity of the deliveries, and also can compromise the quality. So these kind of the decisions we need to understand. We need to state very clear, it's our responsibility, like supply chain practitioners and professionals, and to discuss, right? To discuss in order to align the strategy. It's not the question you should be asking is not, are we getting results? Is do we have the right approach to do this? In the next phase, I would say, is after the organization mature the strategy and the tactics, is preparing and also leading the next hacking. In this context, the leader the first movement have the more possibilities to obtain the results, right? And in this case, the flexibility and the speedness of the organization also give us very good examples of NPD, new products developments, that we start with pilot projects, with the small projects. We don't be afraid to fail, right? In order, if we control the risk, but we make the first step. We launch categories, we launch products in and out. Also, we minimize the impact of if this project fail, and also being aware about the new markets, being aware about the new models of businesses like franchises, right? One of the strategies of growing around the world is with franchises, and also understanding the evolution of the different distribution channels. Right now, we are facing, and also with this pandemic, grow exponentially the growing of e-commerce, omni channels, and also we are facing and we are living with disrupting technologies that now in this context are very affordable than before. So understanding all of these contexts, understanding how is the dynamics of the markets, we can have more opportunities to lead in the next hacking. Okay, one of the things also that is we are working and we are challenging, because all the markets have different approaches, different levels of maturity in terms of the people, right? And that's why I would say the evolution of the supply chain leader also is a very critical aspect that we need to look carefully, right? The transition to a traditional leader with a strategic leader. With all of this background, with all of these insights, a supply chain leader is suited to conduct the business in a full connected future. That's why the relevance of identify the traits of this kind of leadership. Some of the results that we have with this all those implementation, I would say globally, because any country, any operations have their different challenges and different results. We can see in the next slide about the supply chain efficiencies by improve the demand planning, right? That is the result of this proactive supply and operations process. We increased globally 20% the forecast accuracy. That is an important trigger. It's not the most relevant, but it's an important trigger for all the rest of the processes of the company. We also, in these times of uncertainty, the reduction of 20% of inventory and working capital, and also we improve the utilization of our capacity. During these times, it's very difficult to invest, right? But for continue growing, we make also focus in the operational excellence, also optimizing our portfolio. We constantly review what are the products or what are the new patterns of the market, and this capacity utilization also allow us to can be more effective in terms of pricing and cost. The sustainability is I would say a new trend in our organization, and we are mixing the sustainability, the CSR projects with our operational excellence, with our low-cost DNA. And for some show in the next slide, can dashboard, because we are in the context of also evolution and relevance of supply chain in the world, have infinite KPIs, but it's important to focus and prioritize some of them. And we can see this in the part of supply chain margin, an improvement of 15%. This is a KPI that see the business, the supply chain, contributing to the profitability of the business, right? It's not only looking about what happened in the factory, what happened in the distribution, also have a total vision that impact also with the leveraging, the out of stock, and reducing the scrap impairment in 12% with the projects, with the pilots that we implement during these times and during the first stage of the pandemic. So I hope this presentation is helpful for all of you, and I will be happy to answer any question or share my thoughts about the challenge that we have in the global supply chain, right? Especially during these times.
Thank you, Raul, for your excellent presentation. I have a question for Suraj Pahat, and Suraj says, "Hi, Raul. Do you partner with other companies in other countries or prefer to enter foreign markets as a group privately?
Okay, well, now we are open to explore partnerships, right? Partnering with a local franchises, with a local or international companies that are interested in our business model. For sure, is the way of growing. I would say in the first years of our growing and evolution, we are penetrating the new markets with our own company, with our infrastructure. But now we already open some franchises principally in Africa, and also it's a very important focus in the strategy of the organization globally.
Thank you, Raul. Thank you, Raul. There is another question uh, from Stefano Calci. He says, "Hello, Raul. I have a couple of questions for you. In your business, how much percentage is variable cost derived from supply chain, and how much are fixed costs?" That's the first one. And the second one is, in your supply portfolio, how many are supplier partners involved in new product development with long relationships, and how many are managed with an arm length approach, a contractual base and a specific base?
Okay, in terms of cost, I would say in the rough number, 70% is fixed cost. Sorry, variable cost. 70% is variable cost and 30% fixed cost, right? This is also one of the healthy equation that we find in our model, right? Try to variabilize the most of our cost. According to the second part of the question about the strategic suppliers, yes, for sure, this is one of the strategic pillars in our procurement strategy, as we saw in the global process of sourcing. Is we work our main products, our core products, and the new categories with strategic alliances with suppliers that globally also have operations in different countries. In some cases, we develop also local suppliers, right? And also they growing with us. It's very interesting. For example, in manufacturing, I would say we have outstanding cost because the main maintenance and services of maintenance sometimes we develop with local workshops, right? That also they develop and they improve the infrastructure and the capabilities, and some of them grow not only in one of the countries, or they also expanding. For example, in Asia, right? We have a local supplier in Thailand that now open operations in Indonesia and is next to open in Vietnam. This is one of the cases that we work with a mix of global suppliers and local suppliers as well.
I have a question from Jose Latorre. He says, "Raul, it is great to see." Sorry. Uh, to see you and thank you for your presentation. You mentioned that sustainability is one of your key values in the company. Can you share with us which are the metrics or KPIs that you are tracking in terms of your performance against sustainability goals? And what weight do you have to do you give this metric relative to financial or operating metrics?
Hello, Jose. Thanks for your question. Yeah, as you said, sustainability is one of the pillars of the company, right? You can see the logo of the company. We changed now is a green, and also our new projects are based in sustainability and the cooperation with the communities. It's totally relevant for our business. I would say in terms of volume, maybe it's not the biggest in our contribution in our share, but for sure it's strategically because most of these sustainable projects are focusing in bring healthy products, right? So it's a win-win strategy with the communities to develop and also to bring the I would say, infrastructure, cooperation, professionalization of their businesses, of the small businesses, and also we develop products that we can sell globally. Right, we have a nice product with a superfood of Amazon, right? Like aguaje, like a mucamu, now selling in United States by Amazon. And these products are high value and premium products, and they are considering the interest of a lot of organizations around the world. It's incredible the exposure and the interest of the world in this kind of projects and in this kind of initiatives. Um, I would say it's in the contribution of profitability of the volume. Still the volumes, still the business is in an early stage, right? We are not looking these projects. We cannot also measure these projects with the same KPIs for example, for carbonated drinks or for water, for tea, right? We divided this in different stages. These projects can take 4 years, 5 years. We develop projects in Machu Picchu, in Peru, in Amazon, and now we developing projects here in Thailand. So need to the way that we are measuring is principally according each project. Each project is different, right? Each project is different, and each project have different milestones and different KPIs, and also this state of maturity are reaching some also KPIs of the businesses. But this is after the we finish the early stage of preparations of supporting the communities and developing also within or with these communities some businesses that can give also for us good opportunities in the different markets. I would say these kind of projects give innovative products, totally innovative products that maybe in our countries we heard from our parents, for our families, but in the rest of the world, they don't know the real benefits or properties of these superfruits, right? That's why I would say each project, each pilot have a different stage and different measures also.
Thank you, Raul. I have another question from Neil Anderson. He says, "Thank you, Raul. With regards to supply chain, what are the three most significant risks that you face? Suppose your supply chain network was hacked. How will AJE be able to operate and meet the KPIs?"
Okay, I would say the people. I would say the people, right? We think without the people we cannot move forward, and especially during these times, the stability, the mental stability of the people, of the team, the concern about this pandemic, about uncertainty, was impacting for sure the daily operations. That's why it was one of the first priorities to focus in our people, to give people a safety environment, okay, and also all the facilities for some people can work from home, and some of them need to come every day to the factory. This also enhanced to us to develop more technology, more automation in our processes. I would say first the people. The other challenging that we were facing was the disruption, right? The disruption that everybody are facing with suppliers around the world, right? First we have shortage of supplies from China. After that, lack of containers, Suez Canal. So now the price of containers increased dramatically. So this is impacting a lot of our costs. We cannot transfer these kind of disruptions to the final price of the consumers. That's why the third challenge I would say is how to maintain our model of low cost in the manufacturing. And one of the success factor I would say was to enter in a very deep detail, like in micromanagement, or return to the basics, right? In order to find opportunities over time, expenses, right? Take care of the cents, right? Like the millions take care by themselves. So this is one of the three first challenges that we're facing in the supply chain.
Okay, thank you. I have one more question from Vikim Tiu, and very interesting one. He says, as all the questions that have been posed, hi Raul, what is your biggest trade-off of having a low cost strategy while being flexible and agile?
I would say that in the working capital, right? The trade-off when we decide for example, as I mentioned, long running for being more effective, for reduce of transformation cost, but we don't want to impact the service level of our customers, because now the customers are very empowered. They have a lot of options. This trade-off is very difficult to balance, and also with this increase of prices from the suppliers, because for the reasons I mentioned, we cannot compromise the quality. I would say this is I would say the trade-off that everybody, especially in these industries of FMCG, are facing. But as I said, understanding everybody, this kind of trade-off is more easy to align, is more easy to understand, and also is these kind of scenarios that we are evaluating in our proactive S&OP process, right? The main concern in this meeting is not about the number. It's not about the forecast accuracy. The forecasts are predictions, and predictions fail. This is our GPS, it's our some orientation, but the most important is to evaluate different scenarios and understand everybody why we can go for some direction.
Okay. I have just one more question, and sorry for all your time. But it's from Victoria Perez Santos, and she says, "How are you managing to maintain your excellence in cost in a context with many countries facing the rising prices in raw materials and supplies?"
Yeah. This is, I would say, is one of the most difficult things, but also is the biggest opportunity, because everybody facing that. And I would say that our characteristic or our DNA of succeeding the crisis and be ready for adjust our strategies. It means that, for example, the last year was one of the best years in the middle of the pandemic, right? Because everybody faced that, but we are always challenging that. Like, we are always trying to preparing to be in a crisis, right? We are trying to focus a lot in the people, as I said. Is one of also the challenge, retain the talent people, because now also with this generation, the mobility of the people in the company and the talents is very difficult, but it's very crucial to maintain and to challenge the teams to can continue improving, and we are opening to give them the leading the projects of some of them.
Thank you, Raul. Thank you all for your excellent presentation. I would like just to highlight that there is an imprinting effect that you mentioned, which something that helps you out to grow at the beginning in a difficult area, still helps you to deal with all the uncertainty and problems that all companies are facing right now. Thank you very much for you in particular, and for all the team that is helping us in this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you, everyone.